Hey guys, happy Friday, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Taylor and I do all sorts of guitar related stuff. You know what, you're probably not new here. Let's get on with it. Taylor, seeing how close the models are to the real amp, would you consider selling the real amp? I mean, as a producer, not as a YouTube channel. Physical gear serves more than one purpose for YouTube, I guess. Winky face. Hey Chris, thanks so much for that question, man. This was on a 5150 shootout video, I believe, and no. This gentleman is asking me if I'd be willing to sell this 5150 that's back here. I have no interest in selling it because it's an original block letter, and that's the whole reason that I bought it actually, is just because it's a collector's item, really. It's kind of the same thing with the cranks back there. You know, you can still get them on the used market, but they don't make them anymore. So at some point, they're gonna be rarer and harder to get. So, you know, I wouldn't sell those amps either. And to be honest with you, that's probably the main appeal of having tube amplifiers now, since you can get good guitar tones so easily with like plugins on your computer. It's just cool to have the physical gear, and you know, they're sort of collector's items at this point. I mean, I have a tape machine back here too, and I don't ever plan on using the tape machine. It's just, you know, cool to have and look at. So sorry to disappoint you, but thank you so much for the question. Please leave Fruity Loops alone. I've been using it since the 90s. It's much better, just like everything else these days. Hey Kyle, thanks so much for that comment, man. You know, when I had referenced Fruity Loops before, and maybe I did it in sort of a disparaging way, I didn't mean any offense for it. To clarify, I wasn't making fun of Fruity Loops the program. I was making fun of myself for using Fruity Loops as a drum machine. Because even though you can use Fruity Loops to play back drum tracks, it's just not ideal. There's so many better options, especially now. And I think even back then there were better options, like, I want to say Groove Shark. Groove Shark was like the first, you know, MIDI drum synth that I had heard of, but for whatever reason I just chose to use Fruity Loops. So if you want to use Fruity Loops, no judgment. Totally reasonable. Hey man, I watched your Moore GE200 videos. Would you recommend it over a Hot Tone Ampero? The Hot Tone is actually more expensive than it. Oh, and about the Axe Effects, I think it's rather overpriced. Okay, so I've responded to a lot of comments about the Axe Effects being overpriced, and I really don't think it's overpriced. I just think it's over most people's budget, and it's also a lot of overkill for most people's needs. You know, it's really similar to like gaming computers. A lot of people will buy a console like an Xbox or PlayStation, spend $300 to $400 and be perfectly happy with it, be able to play all the games they want, and be totally content. And then you have those gamers that are really into gaming, that want to play with the highest frame rates possible, want the best performance, need zero lag because they're doing competitive online gaming and stuff like that. And those dudes will spend $4,000 to $5,000 on a computer without batting an eye. So if you think about it that way, at least for me, it makes a little bit more sense. And to answer your question about recommendations, I wouldn't recommend one over the other. I think it totally just depends on your budget, what you need out of the unit, and you know, if you see yourself expanding to any other needs in the future. If you're looking at it just in terms of tone and effects, both are gonna get the job done, and I'm sure you'd be happy with either one of them. But the big difference between them are the in and out options, and also, you know, the Ampero has a touchscreen, so you know, if you really want to be able to use the touchscreen, there's that too. You know, in general, when people ask me for gear recommendations, it's really hard for me to recommend them exact gear because it's like, I don't really know you or your playing style or what you're looking for. And so, you know, it's hard to say like, get this one thing. All I can really do is kind of be objective and tell you the differences between each of them. But ultimately, it's up to you to make the decision and pick the thing that you think is gonna make you the happiest. So thanks for that question. Dude, I have an idea. How about a series called something like Quarantine Riff, where you challenge the guitar players subscribed to your channel to play an original riff and reply to the challenge video on your channel, and maybe feature some of those riffs on the next Quarantine Riff video. Hey, thank you so much for that suggestion. I wanted to bring this up in this video because I wanted to see what you guys think. Is this something you'd be interested in doing? Maybe what we could do is I could supply drum tracks and then have you guys write riffs to the drum tracks and send those back in, and then like I can pick a winner or something. I really have to work out the details on that, but you know, if that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. Your channel is in a way focused on modeling amps, and you often compare them to tube ones, but what is your opinion on solid states? Recently, I got interested in orange amplifiers, and particularly in the CR120 solid state head. I've seen some demos and it sounds absolutely great for me. I've even found a direct tone comparison to the Rockerverb 100, and the CR120 holds its own, yet the Rockerverb is almost 4 times more expensive. Not to mention the cost of tube amps maintenance. Love your content, man. Cheers from Poland. God, it just got so bright in here. Hold on, I gotta close this window, it's too bright. Fucking sunshine not cooperating with my shit. Okay. Hey, thank you so much for watching my videos all the way from Poland. That's really awesome. So to answer your question on solid state amplifiers, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I think solid state amplifiers are totally legit. I mean, I use a solid state power amp if that tells you anything. And I have played a CR120 and I did think it sounded really good. There was something weird going on with that amp's clean channel though. I kept getting some weird like clipping or something happening on the clean channel, but I think it was more that particular amp. I don't think it has anything to do with the actual CR120 line of amplifiers. I would say that the main thing though about the CR120 and comparing that to like my tube amplifiers and even, you know, the Axe effects going through a solid state power amp is the CR120 is definitely flatter and it doesn't have the same response that like the tube amp or even something like the Axe effects would. So, you know, just take that for what it's worth. But, you know, they're really inexpensive amps, and if you like the tone with it, I'm sure you'll be totally happy with it. Thank you so much for the question. Man, the whole age thing, I just turned 30 last month. I've spent the last 10 years working on the road and have recently decided to have a life again and work local. After 10 years of not having a rig and barely playing guitar, I've been using an Orange Micro Tear for the last 5 years. I picked up an EVH 5153 and a Mesa 4x12. Way overkill for my bedroom and learning how to play again, but hey, whatever inspires you and makes you happy, right? Metal horns. Hey Matt, thank you so much for that comment, and yeah, I totally 100% agree with you. I think the main purpose of gear is to, you know, inspire creativity and to make you want to play your instrument. And I completely get where you're coming from about being on the road and deciding to, you know, go home and get like a normal job and trying to have like a normal life. I was in the same boat in like 2010 and that's when I decided to stop touring and get a job and try to do the normal thing. Looking back on it, I think the timing was a little bit bad on my part because we were actually just coming out of the recession at that point, and I had been touring through like the worst years of the recession, which probably is at least a little bit in part why my experience with touring wasn't that great. But yeah, I can totally sympathize with that, and you know, I think if a 5153 and a Mesa 4x12 makes you want to play guitar, fuck yeah, get a 5153 and a Mesa 4x12. More power to you, man, and best of luck. Hey man, great content. I recently picked up the guitar again after a long hiatus and purchased an Ampero based on your videos. My question is, what exactly is clipping? I've heard many a YouTuber talk about it and I'm not sure what it is. Thanks. Hey Scott, thanks for that question. I wanted to put this here just in case anyone else was curious or didn't know what clipping was. Clipping is actually when your audio signal hits the ceiling of your output and it causes the audio signal to be clipped. I'm sure I can get an image of what the audio signal looks like when that happens here, but awesome video and viewer interaction as usual, smiley face. I think a lot of us would like to hear your music on Spotify, Bandcamp, and other platforms. Happy face. I'm also always looking for cool music to remix if you wonder what a drum and bass version of one of your tracks would sound like. Hey, thank you so much for that comment. I do actually have some music on Spotify, iTunes, and Bandcamp with my band Sacrificer, and I've also been slowly, like very slowly, uploading music to Spotify and the like through my DistroKid account. P.S. There's a sign-up link in the description below if you want to save some money. I've been using that to upload some of the music that you hear in the demos on my channel, so it's something that I probably will start doing a little bit more once I have like, you know, a library of songs and I can actually sit down and mix and master them and get them uploaded. And as far as the remixing goes, I've never really considered uploading like the stems or anything for my songs, but you know, maybe that's something I could do in the future as well. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Taylor, what is a good powered speaker for use with my Ampero? I want to start using my Ampero at church. I have about $800 to spend. Hey Tony, thanks so much for the question, man. To be honest with you, I've never really used a powered flat response speaker besides like my studio monitors, and I'm really not versed at all in them, so I have no idea, and I really wouldn't recommend any of them to anyone because I'm just not versed in them well enough to know what I'm talking about. But you do have a really good budget, and you could totally get a solid state power amp and a cabinet if you wanted, and probably still stay right around your budget. For example, I use the Seymour Duncan Power Stage 700, which is a stereo solid state power amp. They make a smaller one called the Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170, which is considerably cheaper. And then I have two Harley Benton 2x12s, which both came with vintage 30s, and I think even after shipping, those things were only like $250 a piece or something like that. I mean, they were really, really inexpensive. So, you know, if you get creative and you look around, especially if you start looking into the used gear market, you can probably find something that you're gonna be really, really happy with, and you don't necessarily need a powered speaker. Hi Taylor, What DAW do you recommend for using with my Helix? Thanks. Okay, when it comes to digital audio workstations, I would say just use whatever you're comfortable with. It used to be that they all sort of did different things and that Pro Tools was just at the top of the heap in terms of like functionality and quality and workflow, but that's just not the case anymore. Now you can pretty much get whatever you need done with pretty much any DAW that you choose, and really the only main difference between any of them is going to be your workflow. And most of them have free trials now, so I would say just download a bunch of free trials and then just stick with the one that seems most intuitive to you. I've been using Reaper for like the last 10 years, and the only reason that I haven't switched over to any other DAW is that I'm just really familiarized with Reaper, and at this point I think it would be such a huge learning curve for me to go backwards and learn another DAW that, you know, I don't see any reason to switch. I'm sure someone will tell me why Reaper sucks in the comments below, but, you know, that's the one I like using. Perhaps because kids are being conned through internet bullshit like this. You learn by hard work and dedication and a good teacher. Hey Phil, I don't know why you think I'm conning anyone or what I said that could be interpreted as being a con of any kind. I try to be as straightforward and honest with my audience as possible because it doesn't do me any good to give you guys advice and lie to you about my advice because I have nothing to gain from it. At the end of the day, all I have is this camera and the internet and trust. And that's what my relationship with my YouTube audience is built off of. So I really don't know what you're getting at here with this con thing, but you know, sorry you feel that way. All right guys, if you have any questions for me, make sure to leave them down in the comments below. And if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, consider subscribing, and hit the bell or something. It's so weird that YouTube makes you do those two things and it really messes up my banter. All right guys, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.